Well, the executives at Pacific Brands might be wondering if they were wrong to sack nearly 2,000 workers and move their jobs to China. Unions have called for a boycott of the company's iconic brands like Wholeproof, King G and Bonds. But it seems some shoppers are protesting already. Here's Bryan Seymour.
We've got calls from everywhere in Australia asking whether there's another product they can stock or something else.
All those true blue stars, the Aussie sweat of hard yakka, the fair dinkum scenery and national pride.
It shows the disregard that, foreign companies would have for Australians.
You may not know that in 2001, Pacific Brands was snapped up by private equity funds, CVC Asia and Catalyst Investments. 3 years later, they floated the company on the stock exchange, netting a 73% return on their investment and loading the company with massive debt. Today, its major shareholders include JP Morgan, HSBC and Citicorp.
I didn't expect it at all. It's the last thing that we thought of, but there's a slight decrease in sales and a lot of phone calls regarding it.
Tim Newenhouse runs an online clothing retail site called Down Under Guys Gear. He says Pacific Brands' decision to sack 1,850 workers is turning customers off their underwear brands like Bonds.
We didn't think they affected them at first. However, over the last month or so, sales have dropped slightly, and we found that people have been ringing up asking whether, are there any other Australian brands they can switch to at this stage, and they didn't want to, use Bonds anymore.
Pacific Brands insists that since it announced the sackings in February, sales of its Bonds label clothes have not been adversely affected. The only ones who know exactly what's happening to the sales of Bonds, Wholeproof, Rio, Burley, King G, etc. is Pacific Brands itself, and they're not telling us. They've hired a political lobby group to do all of their PR and seem totally consumed now with making more money rather than making more here. The problem for consumers is knowing just what is made and owned by Australians.
So these are our new guides that are coming out before Easter.
Ausbuy CEO Lynn Wilkinson runs a not-for-profit group dedicated to promoting Aussie products.
3 times a year, Ausbuy produces the Ausbuy Guide, which is distributed nationally. We distribute it through supermarkets nationally. However, it lists absolutely everything that anyone can purchase in both goods and services.
And the need to buy Australian-made has never been greater. At the moment, we still charge a 17.5% tariff on clothing imports. But in January, that falls to 10%, making overseas items even